Do you know your family tree is a story to tell, but just don't know how to tell it? Have you been wanting to start your family tree, but you're just not sure where to start? How to organize all the information you have? Where to start and what it might look like when you're done? Trust me, though once you get started, you'll never be done. Have you seen those large family trees with multiple branches spanning several screens and it just looks overwhelming? In this video, I'm going to show you one tool that when used correctly will help you set goals and be a key for organizing your information and act as a simple tool for telling your family story. Good day, I'm family historian Brian Nash, and my goal is to help you find your family's story. Now, genealogy research can be a daunting task, especially when you're dealing with multiple generations and branches of your family tree. It's easy to get lost in a sea of information and sources, and it can be challenging to keep track of everything. That's where fan charts come in handy. It's a simple tool that can help you to organize your family tree and identify gaps in your research. By using a fan chart, you can visualize your family tree in a way that is simple and makes it easier to plan your next steps. Whether you're a seasoned genealogist or just starting out, a fan chart can make a big difference in your research planning. Fan charts are a great way to visualize your family tree and see how your ancestors are connected. They can also help you identify missing information and gaps in your research. Fan charts typically have 5 generations, but you can create them with as many or as few generations as you like. For today's video, I'm going to be using a 7-generation fan chart in conjunction with 4 separate 5-generation fan charts to give you a picture of your family going back to your grandparents, 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 or simply put, your 4th great-grandmother and grandfather. And if you're part of my generation, this should bring you to your ancestors from about the late 18th, early 19th century. And that is a lofty yet attainable goal because in most regions of the world, it was around or shortly before this time that countries began keeping good records that are still relatively easy to find today, and many of them are available online. With 7 generations, you have 64 4th great-grandparents. So that might not seem like a lot of individuals, but that is a total of 126 direct ancestors, not to mention all the levels of aunts, uncles, and cousins that run on your horizontal lines that you will discover and be able to add to your tree along the way. While fan charts can be created by hand, and I have included some free blank fan charts so you can begin planning your family tree. Just check in the description. But in the meantime, I want to show you what a fan chart of a tree in progress looks like. Any software program you use to record your family tree should have a function for creating and printing fan charts. But because family research can come with a cost, and one of the traits passed down to me by my Scottish ancestors is to be frugal. And since I believe Wikitree is one of the best tools out there to record your family tree, and it happens to be free, I'm going to show you how to use it to create a fan chart of your ancestor. In fact, you can start by simply entering yourself, and it will create a template for the fan charts for you to use. This can save you a lot of time and effort that goes into filling in a fan chart by hand, especially if you're going to use Wikitree to enter and organize your family tree anyways. So let's dive in and explore how a fan chart can help you uncover your family's story. So in Wikitree, I'm going to open my own profile. At the top of the profile, you should see Tree Apps. Now click on this. Now it might make you sign in again, but that's okay. Just do that. And from this screen, choose Fan Charts and hit Go. Now once you're on the screen, in the top left, there's a toolbar. You'll see there are different options. I like the semicircle version. It resembles an old-style hand fan. You can choose what you like best. Now, in the middle, you can see you can increase or decrease the number of generations by hitting the plus or the minus symbols. And as you can see, with my current tree, when it's set to 5 generations, the information is complete with each section filled. Now, I'll be using 7 generations right now to work on my 4th great-grandparents. It will let you go out to 10 generations if you want to get a bigger picture. But personally, I find that too much. It looks overwhelming with 512 seventh great grandparents. So let's set back to 7 generations. Here you will see that I have multiple sets of third great grandparents, and most of my fourth great grandparents I still need to find. And if you notice, there are red lines with marriage information on some of the couples, but not all of them. The ones that are missing, it shows me that I do not have a date for their marriage, so I'm missing the record. Or even working on my family tree for years, there are still things to be done, even on my first and second great grandparents. Now, one of the other things you can do is change the settings using the little cog in the upper right hand corner. Now, it lets you set different parameters for charts, even font, etc. Now, you can set how to display name formats for dates, places, to show whether you want birth and death locations shown, whether you want photos, and how many generations to show photos. One I enjoy is actually the color settings. Now, I set it to default to have background colors based on grandparents, which is great for the way I'm using the fan chart for this video. It shows the lines all in the same color. But another interesting option is to use location and then birth country. As you can see, when I choose that, it colors each country of birth, so by a quick scan I can see where each ancestor came from. If you notice the legend, for me it has Newfoundland and Nova Scotia as countries. Now this tells me those people were born before the respective provinces joined confederations. Now similar with Scotland, you'll see it's showing separate from the United Kingdom in blue. Now I should only see this blue for Scotland for those individuals born before 1801. And if you look, you can see my third great grandfather, Donald A. McGuinness, was born in 1821, so he shouldn't be in Scotland, but rather the United Kingdom. While this might seem trivial, it's a good indicator of a correction I need to make so it's accurate. Now the ones in white are unknown, which means I was not positive of a birth location, so it's another piece of information I need to find. One of the things when you start researching your family is to understand is family lines and how you can use those to help in completing your research. So I'm going to change the colors back to based upon my grandparents, as it makes it easier to distinguish visually. Now, lines are simply family groupings, the vertical groupings of ancestors on your family tree, following one generation to the next. So everybody on this would be considered one line for my descendants, as they come from me. But from that, I can further clarify and differentiate each of my parents as being a separate line, and each of their parents, my grandparents, being 4 separate lines. And I could keep going to have the 64 separate lines on this chart if I want it to be technical. But to make it easier, I break it down into the 4 lines of my grandparents and suggest doing a 5-generation fam chart on each grandparent. To do that, for my original fan chart, I click on each grandparent and open their WikiTree profile, and then do the same thing I did on my own profile, choose tree apps and fan charts, and in this case I'm only going to choose 5 generations to match the results of my fan chart. Now with each of these fan charts I use as a cover page for a binder I'm creating for each of the 4 lines, where I store the information, photos, and copies of records I print it out for each line. Because while it is good to ensure that you have all your information recorded digitally, having something substantial and holding in your hand can help create a sense of the work you have done, as well as be able to easily show in case you want to talk to relatives. In fact, let me show you how this fan chart can help you tell the story of your family as it unfolds from generation to generation. Now, if we look at my father on this section of the fan chart, I could substitute any of his brothers or sisters in the fan chart, and it would be the same. Therefore, for any of my cousins, if I wish to share a quick overview of our family, I can point to each generation. I might start with, did you know grandfather and grandmother Nash were married on May 23rd, 1940? They were both born in 1916. Grandfather was born first on February 18th, and Granny Nash in March And then I point to my grandfather's father and say his father's name was Frederick. He was born in Halifax in 1874. I could add the fact that he and I share June 21st as our birthday. I can continue and say he was married to Catherine Hardery. She was born in Newfoundland on Halloween of 1884. They were married in 1906. Now, grandmother, she was born Orion. Her father, John, was born September 13th in 1883. And he married a Mary Blackburn, who was born in 1887. Now, these four were our great-grandparents. And then I could continue to follow each generation from there. While the fan chart does not dig deep into each individual story, it is a great way that can set the stage by presenting the people, time, and places of each generation. Even not having all the information and all the individuals, it helps to create a story of what you need to find out and can pique the interest of your cousins. And you can literally do this for any of your relatives. By knowing who your common ancestor is and following them on a fan chart, you can begin to lay the foundations of your shared story. While fan charts are a useful tool for organizing your family tree and planning your research, they do have limitations. Fan charts only show direct ancestors and do not include the horizontal lines such as siblings. Now, this means that you may miss important information about your ancestors' siblings and their descendants. This we will see when we print up a traditional family tree. But they can often be confusing and bulky to look at as they spread out over many generations. So a fan chart is a great way to keep focused on your ancestors. Additionally, fan charts do not include information about your ancestors' lives. They do not tell about their occupations, their hobbies, their personalities, or other important events in their life. But this is some of the nitty-gritty work of building out a family tree and researching it. And on this channel, I'll be helping you develop your family history. Remember, creating and visualizing a goal in a fan chart is just the first step in creating a research plan. Together with the research plan, which we will be building out in future videos, you can stay organized and focused on your goals. You can also track the progress of marking off your ancestors that you have researched and the ones that you still need to find information out. Hopefully you've seen that a fan chart is a simple tool that can make your family history research, planning, and goals much easier. By organizing your ancestors into a chart, you can identify gaps in your research and build out your family lines. Now, but fan charts can also help you stay organized and focused on your research goals. Fan charts can even be used to simply tell the story of your family. But a fan chart is just the first step. To help you see where your family research can take you, watch this video coming up on the screen now.